Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The ground quakes with the sound of the charge of the Cloven Ones as the Beastmen face off against Chaos, as Honeynut will be commanding the Beastmen, and Sleepy Lion will have command of Chaos. So for the Beastmen side of things, it is going to be a complete mobile force. It is going to be Centaurs with throwing axes in that front, so 4 units of those, and they'll have some regular Centaurs on the far flank. And then for the secondary reserves, it is going to be a couple of Razorgore Herd with the Razorgore Chariots, and for the Lords and Heroes, it is going to be a Beast Lord coming in on his chariot, as he is going to be bringing the Horn of the First Beast, which gives a nice little buff to melee attack, charge bonus, and leadership, and that is in an AoE, and it does have a nice little duration on that. He has the Apocalyptic Vision as well, so a nice little buff to leadership and melee attack on top of the Horn of the First Beast, so all those units surrounding that Beast Lord can get a nice little buff. And then for the spellcasting, it is going to be a Brave Shaman of Shadows, also on Chariot, going to be rolling on in with Pit of Shades as well as Melkoth's Misfying Miasma, trying to get some nice DPS in with the Pit of Shades. Also, it does have the Smoke and Mirrors, so giving a nice little extra speed to all units when casting spells. So on top of Melkoth reducing the speed of the opponents is almost going to guarantee that the Beastmen are going to be able to catch the mobility of the Chaos side. We also do have some Chaos Warhounds with Poison as well, 3 units of those in total, and that's going to be really nice having that Poison also able to help slow things down, and that nice high speed to boot as well, going to be playing quite nicely with the Beastmen lineup that they have brought. As for the Chaos side of things, it is going to be 4 Marauder Horsemen in the front, and they're going to have their work cut out for them, trying to avoid all of the Centaurs. For the Lord, it is going to be Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, rolling in with Fireball, Flaming Sword, Burning Head, Stand or Die, as well as Slayer of Kings. So Archaon is going to be pretty much a world beater here. It's going to be very hard for the Beastman to bring down. He's going to be easily able to defeat that Beast Lord and the Brave Shaman, and especially when he has the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth in support, some very strong anti-large. For the infantry, it is going to be some Forsaken mixed in with some Chaos Marauders with great weapons, probably expecting to see a little bit of Bestigors here and there. There's more Forsaken on that far flank, and then some Dragon Ogres as well in the back, with a little bit of quick mobility with some Chaos Warhounds. But that is going to be it for both sides, so let's get things rolling, as the mobility of the Beastmen going to be trying to harass the Marauder Horsemen here, as they do kind of push them back behind their own units, as the Forsaken are going to be taking point here. But none of the Chaos troops are going to be having any shields, so all of these Centaurs with throwing axes are going to be able to do quite nicely. Fireball coming in from Archaon, able to make connection with a Brave Shaman, doing a little bit of damage, as the Horsemen going to start kind of peppering in their shots, and Archaon is able to get on top of the Centaurs with throwing axes. He's going to be able to get some nice damage in here. These guys are going to want to be pulling out. They don't want to be getting stuck in melee too along with Archaon. They want to be able to get as many shots as they can, especially with against like the Forsaken. They have some decent armor, so that armor piercing from the Centaurs is going to be quite nice. They do have 32 armor piercing missile strength after all. Frontline is going to get a little engagement here, as the Chaos Warhounds with Poison do get a little caught out here. They definitely don't want to be taking that engagement too long. We are going to be also getting a Flaming Sword going to be going down on all of these Marauder Horsemen, which is going to be increasing their base missile damage and base weapon damage, but we also get a Pit of Shades right into the middle of all of them, and that is just going to be doing so much damage to both of these horsemen, taking a ton. These guys are probably going to be routing, if not outright shattering here, and especially with a charge on the Centaurs, might be just enough to make sure, and one of them does indeed shatter. The other one might be very close to doing exactly that, while the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is able to push back these Chaos Warhounds with Poison, able to terrify those guys, while the Centaurs are going to be able to kind of plucker some shots right on into his flank, and the Beast Lord getting into melee as well, able to break these Chaos Marauders with great weapons, as the rest of the mobility, though, is able to kind of continue to push back the Beastmen here. Brave Shaman has taken quite a bit of damage, and the Dragon Ogres are going to be a major threat here, though, because they are going to be able to trade very well into the Centaurs. They do have that bonus versus large and armor piercing, so that's going to be able to do quite nicely there. Razorgore Herd also able to get pushed back by the Forsaken, as is the second unit. So these Forsaken able to hold against the onslaught of the Beastmen fairly well, but the rest of the mobility quickly getting taken down a peg or two by the Beastmen, as the Centaurs and are just completely taking these horsemen to town. But Burning Head going to be going down, going to be able to clip some of the units, but for the most part it is going to be going a little to the wayside. Going to be really hard to get some good casts on those anyways. The quick mobility of the Beastmen is going to be able to pretty much prevent that. Otherwise the Chaos Marauder is going to be trying to hold them engaged in melee, but just the quick mobility of the Beastmen here is really going to be playing into their strong suits. We do have some Berserker hordes coming in at the back, and the Forsaken going to be able to trade fairly well, especially if they are able to get the charge off onto the Centaurs. This one unit is going to be getting a little caught out, as the Forsaken going to be able to take them down fairly quickly, and the Dragon Ogre and Archaon running amok in the backline as well, taking out some more Centaurs, and they are quickly taking things down. But all the Centaurs with throwing axes able to do some nice damage to the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth so far, taking that thing down very low. But Archaon is still going to be such a major problem for the Beastmen to deal with. They can't afford to be running out of steam too much. We do have the Razorcore Chariots in the back doing nice well damage, but Archaon doing a nice job with those fireballs, keeping that Brave Shaman down, and especially with him in pursuit, I think he is actually going to be able to catch that Brave Shaman out, and a couple hits is all it's going to take for that Brave Shaman to be going by the wayside. If we take a quick little look, speed is 70 compared to Archaon's 78, so yeah, he definitely does have that speed advantage against that Brave Shaman. So that is pretty much going to be it for the spellcasting for the Beastmen, but they do have plenty of Centaurs with throwing axes left to kind of just plucker away their shots right into these Forsaken, getting some nice damage in with that armor piercing. But really, Archaon, we're going to see if the Beastmen have it in them to deal with this man, because he is going to be so hard to deal with. I mean, they have plenty of units, have plenty of mobility, but are they going to be able to finish him off? Because they have been able to deal with one of the Forsaken units, and that Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is getting lower and lower with these Centaurs with throwing axes, really doing quite a good job at dealing with it. But they still have those Dragon Ogres as well to deal with, and it's going to be a tall order, I think, for the Beastmen to really deal with them. They still have the Beast Lord around as he is cycle charging through these Chaos Warhounds, able to get them out of the picture, but Chaos has centralized their entire force here right into the center pocket, as all of the throwing axes just going to be getting some damage in, as Archaon just tries to keep them at bay as best as possible. But they're just going to be weathering the storm now at this point, kind of pushing back, because they cannot catch the Beastmen at this point if the Beastmen do not want to be caught. Archaon is the only quick speed that they have left, and Archaon really needs to be a little careful. He can't really afford to get too overextended, but the Forsaken do have some decent speed to try and catch him. He's going to be dropping a Burning Head, though, trying to catch out the Beastmen, but unfortunately it is going to be going a little bit to the wayside as the Beastmen charge right on through. Forsaken going to be kept away from Archaon as the Centaurs holding him back, and all of these Razorcore herd here are actually doing a nice little bit of damage to him. The Dragon Ogre Shaggoth dropping that big axe in the background, able to terrify out the Centaurs, as the rest of the units, these Razorcore Chariots, all kind of getting in. But that is exactly where that Dragon Ogre wants to be. So he does want to be in some kind of infantry support, as these Forsaken do kind of charge on in, doing a lot of damage to the Beastmen, as they are all going to be repelled here on that onslaught. But the damage is going to be still slowly whittling away. Fireball targeting that Beast Lord, but it's going to be going right into the ground. Just a couple of the Centaurs with throwing axes taking that damage, but using up all their ammunition, they are now going to be committing themselves to melee, charging on in, and all of the infantry really is getting whittled down bit by bit. And if they can break that Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, get him out of the picture, that is going to be really it for all that fear and terror, and that terror is going to be a major source here. I mean, the Dragon Ogres do have fear themselves, but getting rid of that terror is going to be really big for the Beastmen. And Archaon is completely isolated, as the Dragon Ogres and the Shaggoth are going to be charging in, trying to come to his rescue, but he is getting whittled down bit by bit, and the Beastmen are clawing ahead in that balance of power with the damage that they're able to do to Archaon, because Archaon and the Dragon Ogres are the big problem here. All of the infantry is actually getting routed off the field here for Chaos, as the Beastmen just continually just wearing them down bit by bit, getting rid of the units that overextend. The Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is now also routing, and that is it for the terror in this little center pocket. And Archaon is getting very low in terms of HP as well, as the Beastmen are continuing to claw more and more ahead as the battle does drag on. And if Archaon does rout, that is pretty much going to be curtains for the Chaos side, because once he is gone, it is going to be pretty much down to just the Dragon Ogres. Forsaken are not going to be able to hold back all of these units. Though these Centaurs do end up routing, though a second little onslaught does occur in the rear, as Archaon just continues cycling. He has been able to stabilize his leadership bit by bit, but in comes the Beast Lord, trying to finish off the Ever-Chosen himself as he charges on into this melee engagement. Dragon Ogre's taking a lot of damage as they're just kind of slowly getting dragged down. Archaon does kind of poke his nose out of this engagement, trying to chase it down, that Beast Lord, but that is going to cause him to overextend once again, and the mobility of the Beastmen should be able to capitalize on this, but Archaon does kind of group back up with the rest of his units as they charge forward into the charging Centaurs, who have gotten a nice little charge into the Chaos Marauders, and they are able to pull back some nice little volley in by these Centaurs with throwing axes over here as they get some nice damage into those Dragon Ogres, some nice good value there, and another charge into the Forsakens. So the Beastmen have done very well at just charging in, dealing with all of this infantry, because now it is down to the Dragon Ogres, it is down to Archaon. These Forsaken are down to just the last dredges of their unit, and they're getting very low themselves, and leadership is going to be playing a problem here in the late game. Archaon is exhausted himself, as are the Dragon Ogres. The Beastmen have been running rampant, and they are still fresh as a daisy, ready to go another round, and that is going to be their big advantage here, as Chaos is just so beaten down and run across the map, as they've just been forced to kind of chase and react to the Beastmen. Beastmen have been able to have that advantage pretty much all game long in terms of mobility, so they've been able to pick and choose what they want to do, and here is pretty much going to be the final engagement as Chaos trying to hold things back. Some of the Centaurs do out. Forsaken are gone. That is it for the infantry support for Chaos, and Archaon, the Dragon Ogres as well, are wavering, and now Archaon is all that is left, and that is going to be army losses, and the Beastmen are able to pull things out, and they will bring down the Ever-Chosen himself. So let's take a look at the after battle report, see how things did fare on both sides. So for the Warriors of Chaos, led by Sleepy Lion, the Chaos Warhounds actually did fairly decently, getting 500. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, on the other hand, did not. He does cost 2,000 in total, so only getting 545 is a little bit of a disappointment. Dragon Ogres, on the other hand, did quite well themselves, getting 1,800. That is some very good value from them. They definitely had their pick and choice of their key targets there. Those Centaurs, they just do so well against them, and really just having some more Dragon Ogres here probably would have been quite the game changer. That Shaggoth just wasn't able to have that versatility to really deal with it very well against like the chariots, but there's too many Centaurs on the Beastman side for that Shaggoth to really do, because he just got worn down throughout the course of the fight. Those Centaurs with throwing axes doing quite well on that, and then for all the horsemen, they just really didn't have much of a chance from the get-go. They just didn't have the speed to get away from all of the Beastmen, and that Pit of Shades, of course, didn't do them any favors either. As for the rest of the units, the Chaos Marauders with great weapons actually did some decent job there, getting 500, 400, 500, so not too bad. The Forsaken actually did rather well themselves, 1,100 on those guys, almost 800 on them. Archaon himself getting 2k, a little on the lower side for Archaon, but he did still got some nice bit of damage in. I think pretty much saving all of those Winds of Magic for the fireballs, I think, would have been a little better, because really the Burning Head, it was just the mobility of the Beastmen just did not lend to getting some good casts off with that spell. As for the Beastman side, the Razor Gore Hers getting 700 on them, 800, so some nice value there. Rest of the Chaos Warhounds not really getting a ton of value, but just having them around, just having that speed to kind of chase things off, and that poison as well is very, very helpful, being able to kind of bring things down to a little bit more of an even playing field. Centaurs are throwing axes, able to get some very nice value, 1,600 on them, 1,700 on the other ones, with these two units just getting so much value with those throwing axes, just more than paying for themselves. Razor Gore Chariots getting 800, and then the rest of the Centaurs getting some decent value as well. And then the Braceshave, most of that damage value probably it was from that Pit of Shades, just taking out two of those Marauder Horsemen with that single cast, a very nice cast on that. And then the Beast Lord is kind of there. I mean, you don't really bring him there for its combat prowess, especially against like Archaon. You need to be very careful keeping him away from that, especially with all the Dragon Ogres and the Shaggoth as well on the field. Definitely didn't have many good available targets available to that Beast Lord, but overall it was a very fun match. Love to see that mobility coming in from all of these Centaurs, so very nice and well played on that. But that's all I'm going to have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.